Hi guys, it's Will here, back once again for another fight card prediction. We're going to be breaking down UFC on Fox 19 from the Amalie Arena in Tampa, Florida, as the light heavyweights take centre stage as Glover Teixeira faces off against Sugar Rashad Evans in the main event. Took a bit of a hit last week with Khabib, Tony Ferguson falling out. Khabib is still on the card, thankfully, which is good to see. He needs a fight. I'd like to say thank you to all my new subscribers from my last video, another 10 to 15 of you I think. I never counted up fully, but thank you very much. I appreciate the feedback as well. Go follow the guys down below me. You will find the descriptions, the links to their channels, to their podcasts, to whatever they do. They do great stuff, so please go and check those guys out. This video here, I'll have another video out in a couple of days time for UFC 197 as I fly to Las Vegas next week, so I'm going to get that out in the next few days as well. But let's get started in this card. We're going to start down in the welterweight division as we have Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos facing off against Omari Akhmedov. Now, the last time we've seen dos Santos was against Nicolas Dalby in a very close run fight down in Brazil, which Dalby got the decision victory with there. That fight could have went either way. I had it for Dalby just, but would not have complained if it went to dos Santos there. Kind of overall, he's not a bad fighter. Nothing really stands out, in all honesty. He's got decent jiu-jitsu once it gets down there, but he kind of struggles to get it down there. A little bit flat-footed. His output wanes a little bit, but his striking overall isn't too bad. He's just an all-around kind of decent fighter. Nothing stands out. Omari Akhmedov, coming off that loss against Sergio Moraes, where I thought he was winning that fight pretty convincingly, and I think he won the first 2 rounds, mixed it up fairly well, and then got caught with punches and strikes. So his chin is it does go a little bit, so that's something you have to keep an eye on here. I don't think dos Santos has the kind of skills on the feet to really hurt Akhmedov. I'm going to go Akhmedov decision here. He could finish it via submission if he gets the back of dos Santos. I say dos Santos has decent jiu-jitsu skills, but I overall like Akhmedov here via a unanimous decision. Moving on to the middleweight division, we have Cezar Mutante Ferreira against Oluwale Bamgbose. Ooh, I don't like this fight for Cezar Ferreira. His chin is completely gone. And I think that once that chin has shown weaknesses like it has, it's very, very hard to come back from that. Knocked out by Jorge Masvidal last summer. It was a vicious knockout in Vegas. Before that, he got knocked out by Sam Alvey. Decision over Andrew Craig, he got caught in that one a little bit, but he did manage to kind of win the 3 rounds. And then he got knocked out by CB Dolloway beforehand. Oluwale Bamgbose is a guy I'm actually really looking forward to watching again. I thoroughly enjoyed his last fight in the UFC against Daniel Sarafin, a kind of mutual opponent of the Cezar Ferreira here, and he's just awkward. He's herky-jerky. He throws some odd movements out there. Before he knocked out Sarafin, he reached for the knee and came up with a huge shot and took Sarafin out. Uriah Hall come in short notice there. It was always going to be a tough fight for him, but he came through. He came out of that fight not looking overly too bad. He just got everything was short notice. If these guys fight in a year's time, Uriah Hall, I'd probably pick Bamgbose the way he's going. He's trending up, where Cezar Ferreira is definitely trending down. So my pick is going to be Oluwale Bamgbose, as long as he can keep it on the feet, because Ferreira is a big guy once he gets on top of you, and that's where he will be looking to take this fight. He doesn't want to stand with Bamgbose, because Bamgbose is too explosive, too strong, too powerful, and once he finds that chin it's good night. So I'm actually going to go an early first round knockout for Bamgbose. But I wouldn't be surprised if it went to decision if Ferreira actually shows up and kind of uses a good game plan. Pick's going to be Bamgbose though. Going down the lightweight division with Drew Dober against Islam Makhachev. Drew Dober is one of these guys who'll kind of trade wins and losses, and he's overall not a bad fighter, but he doesn't really shine anything. He's always had that kind of Muay Thai background, decent striking. I think he's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, so he's not overly bad once it hits the ground either. Coming off that win against Scott Holtzman, he lost to Efrain Escudero with that standing guillotine back at 188. I thought he had a good performance, in all honesty, against Holtzman. Holtzman was a guy, I think I picked Holtzman for that fight. I thought his wrestling would come forward, but he showed some good takedown defense, and he kind of lit him up with the striking as well. His opponent here, Islam Makhachev, is a guy who I think is his third fight in the UFC, I should say. He beat Islam Makhachev in his debut, Leo Kuntz in his debut, and then he faced Adriano Martins where he got knocked out. It was a pretty close back and forward fight in that first round, and then he just got caught with a big shot like any fighter can do. I like Makhachev in this one. I think his overall game is just better than Dober's. I think once he sets his feet and kind of throws the right shots and hit with the right angles, he's got more power than what Dober has. But he's got this grappling background, which I think he has to use in this fight to win this fight. But I think he will do it. I think he can submit Drew Dober. I'm going to go with a late second round submission for Islam Makhachev. Moving on to the welterweight division, we have Randy Brown against Michael Graves. Interesting fight. Randy Brown, we've seen this guy, he was in the Dana White's looking for a fight. The former ROC champion, I believe he was, if I remember off the top of my head. Came into the UFC and faced Matt Dwyer back in New Jersey earlier on this year, and I thought he gave a good performance against Dwyer, because Dwyer is a tough guy, he's an awkward guy to fight. He's so tall for a welterweight that you just have to be careful because he's got that long reach. He doesn't particularly know how to use it very well, but he is very awkward with it. He has some decent grappling and some trips to get you down there, and Randy Brown kind of negated that well, kept out the clinch, which is one of Dwyer's strong points as well. I think he's got to step up an opponent here, Michael Graves. Michael Graves is the guy we've seen on The Ultimate Fighter, ATT versus Black Zillions. Was a bit hit or miss, started off with it and then came through. Then went on to The Ultimate Fighter finale where he won that one. And I think he's changed fight camps. I don't see him at American Top Team anymore. I see him fighting out at Atlanta. I see him training with a guy who fought at Legacy last weekend, Charles Walton, who's a good guy, a good follow on Twitter, and go follow that guy because he's going to be in the UFC very, very shortly. And he's been training, this was one of his main training partners for this fight. He's got that wrestling game which I think can hurt Randy Brown. Randy Brown's all about the striking and keeping it. He's got some flashy strikes, some nice power, some nice movement as well. I just like Michael Graves' wrestling and grappling this one. I just think it's overall going to be a wee bit too much for Randy Brown. This is definitely the biggest opponent he's ever faced. Well, perhaps because Dwyer was tough as well. I'm going to go Michael Graves via decision, but I think it could be a close run thing here. But my pick will be Michael Graves via unanimous decision. Top fight on the UFC Fight Pass prelims, which there's 5 fights this week, which is great. John Dodson making his bantamweight, coming back to bantamweight, I should say, the bantamweight division against Manville the Anvil Gamburyan. John Dodson, what can you say to this guy? He is one of the top guys in the lighter weight classes. There's no doubt about it. The people that he's beat, the skills that he's shown shows that he is one of the best down in those 125, 135 divisions. I have no doubt about it that this guy can challenge for a belt at 135. I mean, his only losses in the UFC are to the flyweight kingpin, who could easily do that I think at 135, especially now with Cruz being out a long time. I know Cruz is a great champion, but since they fought Demetrius Johnson, it's just went up so many levels. I mean, he won the bantamweight edition of The Ultimate Fighter where he knocked out TJ Dillashaw in the first round. Before he even came into that, he beat John Moraga, and then he beat Tim Elliott, Juicy Formiga, Darrell Montague, John Moraga again, Zach Makovsky, with the only 2 losses in the last 9 fights being to Demetrius Johnson, where he just gassed out the longer that fight went. He struggled with pretty much. His cardio, I think, is an issue. He's always going to be in the fight because he's got what some of John Dodson's great abilities that he has. He's a searing speed, really fast guy, very athletic guy, and he hits hard as well. For a flyweight, he can knock out bantamweights. I have no doubt about he can knock out bantamweights with his searing hand speed and his overall quickness. Scrambles very well. If he gets taken down, he usually tries to get back up, and he's got fairly decent takedown defense. He stopped Demetrius a few times. Demetrius got him down a few times. His opponent here, Manville Gamburyan, I think has looked great since he went down to 135, but don't like this matchup for him. I think that just Dodson is too quick. and just a little bit probably better everywhere, better striker. Maybe the cardio kind of could be a little bit an issue in this one. I think that over 3 rounds, John Dodson's got him there. Since he's came down to 135, wins over Cody Gibson and Scott Jorgensen. Nothing to write home about, but they are good wins. Jorgensen's always a tough guy. Gibson was a guy, I think I picked Gibson against Gamburyan in that one, and he caught him with a beautiful submission. He has got one of those tight grips. If he catches you in a submission, you're probably going to tap out. But I just like the searing speed of John Dodson in this one. I think he's going to catch the slow Gamburyan, and I think this is going to be a second round TKO for the magician John Dodson. Moving on to the prelims. In the featherweight division, we have Cub Swanson against Hacran Diaz. Hacran Diaz is a guy I always forget about. The last time we seen him was probably UFC 194 when he was in McGregor's grill, when McGregor was on top of the cage there celebrating. But he's always a guy that you always forget about. He's won his last 2 against Darren Elkins and Levan Makashvili. He's not the most fan-friendly fighter. He's a grinder. Doesn't really do much exciting, and he's just looking to get a hold of you, get you down there, move to different positions, hit on you, potentially look for a submission, but don't really force anything. And that's what he's going to look to do against Cub Swanson here. Is Cub Swanson on the decline? I'm a little bit kind of iffy with that at the minute. He's lost his last 2, but he has lost to 2 of the elite guys at 145. There is 4 guys in that division. There's Aldo McGregor, Holloway, and then there is Edgar Holloway. Aldo, of course, Aldo McGregor, Edgar Holloway, that's what I'm trying to say. And he is probably round about that number 5, with Mendez being there as well. I can't say that. So, but he has lost to 2 guys in Edgar. Edgar just totally busted Cub Swanson up and just kept on going. Got taken down, he got outstruck, which was probably where he thought he was going to have an advantage. Didn't have an advantage there whatsoever, and once he got taken down, he got schooled by Frankie Edgar. Every time he would move, Edgar would counteract that, would jump into a better position than he was in and just pounding on him. Then he caught him with a submission in round number 5. Come out against Max Holloway. I just did not like that matchup for Cub Swanson when I first heard about it, and it showed. He got hit with a lot of spinning attacks. He got pieced up in the feet a little bit, and when he got taken down, he got caught with that submission by Max Holloway. But Hacran Diaz doesn't really offer much in the feet, so this is where I think Cub Swanson has a big advantage. He's just got to fight smart and try and keep away from Diaz, because once Diaz gets a hold of you, he's got a death grip, and he will try and get you down there, and he'll not give up on in the clinch. He'll go to single legs and double legs to take you down. He'll put you against the fence and try and rough you up a little bit. I'm going to pick Cub Swanson. I think it's going to be a very close fight. I can see Diaz taking a round off him, but I'm going to pick Cub Swanson via a pretty close split decision, but I'm fairly confident that he can pull this one out. Welterweight division, Court McGee against Santiago Ponzinibbio. Now, if you watch my videos from way back, I was a big fan, a big admirer of Ponzinibbio in the Tough Show. Very raw, but very strong, hits hard. And he came out against Ryan LaFleur and he didn't fight smart. LaFleur is a tough guy to fight anyway in your UFC debut, coming off that show. And since then, we've seen the improvements that he's made. Now, I know he has lost in those fights, recent fights, but he has beat good contender. I think Sean Strickland's a top fighter. I think he's going to be a fighter in the future that's going to be really tough to fight. And then last time out, he knocked out Andreas Stahl in the first round. And Stahl, if you know anything about him, is a very tough guy with a big chin and relies on that chin a little bit too much. But Ponzinibbio just cracked that chin early and often in round number 1 and won that fight. Court McGee, very much the tough, gritty fighter, the wrestler, looks to take you down and kind of beat you up from there. Fairly rudimental on the feet, doesn't offer very much. Decent jab, but that's about it. I think if Santiago Ponzinibbio can stop the takedown and keep himself off the ground, he will win this fight, and I think he could bust McGee up a little bit. My pick's going to be Santiago Ponzinibbio via a unanimous decision. I don't think he knocks him out. McGee is a tough fighter to stop. Women's bantamweight division, we have Bethe Correira making a return against Raquel Pennington. Correira just had no right being in there with Ronda Rousey. Some of the things she said were kind of a little bit disrespectful to Ronda Rousey, and she got made to pay for that. And you could see when she was making the way to the octagon that she knew what was coming. All right in the feet, doesn't really hit hard. I think we've seen her chins exposed a little bit now, because Rousey, I don't think, is a big power puncher in that women's division at all. Not athletically gifted at all, doesn't have much speed. When she gets you against the cage and she unloads, that's a decent perk that she does have. I think that Pennington will be the bigger lady here. I think if it goes to the ground at Pennington, she's quite versatile down there. She submitted Jessica Andrade, Ashley Evans Smith, she caught with a bulldog choke. And she can take a shot as well, and she can give a shot as well. I like Raquel Pennington this one. Can she take out Bethe here? I think she can, but I'm going to side with being at a women's fight. I think it's going to be a little bit back and forward, but I like Pennington to win at least a couple of rounds in this one. So unanimous decision for Raquel Pennington. Great fight to finish off the preliminary card here. Beneil Dariush against Michael Chiesa. Now, a lot of people were talking a lot of kind of shit last time out against Beneil Dariush. I personally think that he won that fight. I've watched that fight a few times since, and he beat Michael Johnson. I know there's a lot of people saying, oh, that's a robbery, that's this, that. I don't believe it. I think he won that fight 29-28. It was close, but I thought he landed the more definitive strikes. I think he probably lost round 1 and then won 2 and 3, but it was very close. But I always gave it for Beneil Dariush. Just an overall great fighter to watch. All around good fighter, decent on the feet, nice jab, good footwork, some really beautiful leg kicks as well. He can go to the body with those, and he has beat tough guys, with his only loss being to Ramsey in the gym. Carlos Diego Ferreira is a guy I rate very highly. Jim Miller is always going to be a tough guy to face, and Michael Johnson is one of the top 10 in that lightweight division. So in his matchup here against Michael Chiesa, who's another top fighter, coming into his own a little bit. I think his last 2 years he's looked phenomenal. Against Jim Miller, I thought he looked really, really good. Submitted Jim Miller, that's never easy to do. Beat Mitch Clark fairly convincingly. Had a great fight with Joe Lozon before that was called off. Beat Francisco Trinaldo, who's a tough guy to fight, with his only loss before that coming to Jorge Masvidal. Another close fight, but I just think that Beneil Dariush outclasses him everywhere it goes. If it goes to the ground, it's going to be very interesting, because I think Chiesa has more of a chance of winning it there than anywhere else. But he needs to keep on his feet and kind of pop from the outside and just try and fight smart against Dariush. But Dariush is just a good fighter. I like Dariush. I like another decision in this one, but good fight. We'll see where Chiesa is, because I think Dariush is one of the good guys in that 155 division. If Chiesa can win this one, he really puts himself out there. But I like Beneil Dariush via decision. Moving on to the main card, starting in the women's strawweight division, we have a rematch between Thug Rose Namajunas against Tecia Torres. Now, these girls fought way back in Invicta, and I think for Tecia Torres it was a really good time to get Rose Namajunas, because she was very early. They were both very early in their career, but Rose Namajunas, since that tough show, she's looked like the killer which a lot of people thought she could be earlier on with her submission skills. In that fight, Torres, just superior speed, hit Namajunas and then took her down and pretty much dominated her from down there, and everywhere she kind of went she dominated. She stopped the submissions of Rose Namajunas and just won a unanimous decision very, very easily. Since then she's come in, she beat Felice Herrig, Invicta, and then she came in and beat Angela Magana, Angela Hill and Jocelyn Jones-Lybarger. I thought that she looked very good against Lybarger. I don't think against Hill and Magana she looked over. Magana's nothing. Hill is a fighter we've seen in Invicta now. She's kind of prospering a little bit, and Lybarger's a tough fighter anytime, but she did show, I think in that first fight with Magana, it was just a little showcase of her striking, of her grappling. It was more a grappling fest against Angela Hill down in Mexico, and against Lybarger I thought she showed a little bit more increased power, better accuracy, was a little bit more tenacious and looked for that finish a little bit more and hit Lybarger with some good shots, but she's got a good chin. Rose Namajunas looked phenomenal against Paige Van Zandt last time out. I mean, she looked like the killer that everybody's been stating her to be for a long, long time, and she completely dominated Paige Van Zandt. The only thing that kept Van Zandt in that fight was just a heart, and she's got a big heart as Paige Van Zandt, but eventually she subsided to a submission in round number 5. She submitted Angela Magana in Houston at UFC 192. She lost to Esparza for the title, which I think she rushed things a little bit. But in this fight, how do I see it going? I see Rose Namajunas getting the victory here. I'm a fan of Tecia Torres. I'm a fan of Namajunas as well, but I just think that Tecia Torres got Rose Namajunas at the best time you could possibly get her early in her career, where she was decent with her striking, she was dangerous with it, dangerous submissions like we've seen in her wins over Kagan and Catrone. But I think if Rose Namajunas gets you down and gets your back, she's long down there as well. She's quite a lengthy girl with her legs and that. Once she gets them wrapped around you, you're hard to get out, like she showed against Van Zandt, that she could potentially find a submission. Do I think she can finish Torres? I think she can. Do I think she will? No, I think Torres might just gut it out a little bit, but I do see Rose Namajunas. No, in fact, I'm going to go with submission. She's been very dangerous in those previous two fights. So I'm going to go Rose Namajunas via a rear naked choke finish. I'm going to go midway through round number 3. Catchweight 160. Khabib Nurmagomedov makes his return against the debuting Darrell Horcher. Now we'll start with Khabib because we haven't seen this guy in a long time. I mean, his fight with Tony Ferguson was it was going to be a potentially great fight. Standing here now, I think I was going to pick Tony Ferguson. Very tough fight to call. But we have not seen this guy in a long time. He's had a lot of injuries. I mean, 2 years of this guy's career has been lost. Last time we've seen him, he beat the champ and he destroyed the champion in Rafael dos Anjos. Khabib, we'll see if he's made any improvements anywhere, preferably his striking, because we know his wrestling and grappling game is probably the best in the UFC. It's right up there. And he's going to look to get a hold of you, get you down there, and he will look for submissions. I mean, he's 22-0, he's never been beaten. The guy, he's got the confidence that he can't be beaten. Darrell Horcher here is a guy that not many people know. He was a guy I watched a few years back in Bellator. That's probably what he's best known for. He was the Cage Fury fighting champion, lightweight champion, but he is coming in here on kind of short notice, and I don't like that one little bit against Khabib. I just see a Khabib destruction here. I think he's going to eventually find a way to grapple with Horcher. Horcher has some big power in the hand, so that's something he has to watch out for. But I just see Khabib ploughing forward, taking him down and finding a submission. I'm going to go with a submission in round number 2 for Khabib Nurmagomedov. And hopefully we see that rematch with Tony Ferguson, because it's the fight we need to see. Co-main event, Lyoto Machida rematches against Dan Henderson. I mean, both these guys I think are definitely declining a lot. This may be the last time we see Dan Henderson in the UFC. It's his last fight in his contract. These two fought before with Machida winning. A very kind of back and forth fight. I watched it the other day there, and I think I actually maybe gave it for Henderson. I could be wrong, but it was a very close back and forward fight. And Machida was looking to stay on his feet and use his karate, and Henderson was looking for that big Hendo bomb and potentially mix in his wrestling. Since then, Henderson's been really up and down. A beautiful knockout of Tim Boetsch, and then he got starched again by Vitor Belfort. Lyoto Machida, his chin looks to have gone. Luke Rockhold seemed to take the life out of Lyoto Machida and really hurt him down there. And then Yoel Romero was a little bit of cat and mouse, but then once Romero landed anything of a decent shot, he took him out easily. I'm going to go with Dan Henderson in this one. I don't trust Machida's chin. Machida's going to look to hit and move, and not be in that range with Dan Henderson. But I just think if Dan Henderson can land anything substantial, that Machida could go down, and that hurts, man, because Machida is one of the guys I really look at as kind of an innovator in the game, with his style when he first came into the UFC. But both guys I think are definitely on the decline. I think on DraftKings as well, Dan Henderson's like 8-4, so he's a cheap pick on there. I'm going to go Dan Henderson. I'm going to go TKO, and I think his last ever fight in the UFC, but we will see. I can see Machida winning as well, but I feel more confident picking Dan Henderson. So TKO victory in round number 2 for Dan Henderson. And the main event, Glover Teixeira faces off against Sugar Rashad Evans. How do I see this fight going? Another fighter who I think might be in the decline in Rashad Evans. Love him as an analyst, by the way. I think he does great work on there. Great at predicting fights as well. He picked a few Diaz over McGregor, and I think he was picking DC over Jones as well, which I don't agree with. But Sugar Rashad Evans, I can only really go on what his last fight was. He's been out with injuries, and he came back against Rashad Evans, and he got outstruck by Ryan Bader. And getting outstruck by Ryan Bader is not really something you really want anybody telling you, because I thought Evans had the clear advantage on the feet. He had the quicker hands, and he had the wrestling as well, but we all know that Bethe has great wrestling. But I thought he could do enough to definitely win that fight, and I was really strongly mistaken. As soon as I seen that fight finish, I was like, never pick Rashad Evans again. I think I've truly committed to not really picking him, not unless he's got a lot easier fight than what he's facing here. I mean, Glover Teixeira is a guy who his only losses in the UFC are to John Jones and to Phil Davis. He's been a killer. I mean, he beat Fabio Maldonado, Quentin Jackson, knocked out Tahuna, knocked out Bethe, submitted St. Preux, and TKO'd Patrick Cummins. So he beats a lot of the top guys in that light heavyweight division, except for the really top ones. I think Davis, even though he lost that fight, is one of the top ones. Give him that fight back now. I think that he could beat Phil Davis. Overall, great game, great boxing, great jab, good footwork, decent kicks when he wants to use them. Really solid ground game. If he puts you against the cage, he can really hurt you from there. I just think that he's going to hurt Evans on the feet, and then I think eventually he's going to find a way to maybe get him against the cage, and he's going to hit him with a shot there and knock him out. So my pick for this, the main event of UFC Tampa, will be Glover Teixeira via TKO in, I'm going to go round number 4. So that's my picks for UFC on Fox 19. I'll be back next week for a few days time, 2 days time, for UFC 197. Come follow me at Twitter, WillMartin7MMA. Go follow the good guys down in there in the Dropbox, which I converse with all the time, and watch their videos. Please leave all your messages or comments down below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Love some of the input that you had last time out. Tell me your picks, tell me who you think is going to win, and how they're going to win, and I will get back to you, and we'll talk a little bit about it. But if you can, subscribe, share with your friends, get them to listen, get them to watch, whatever it may be. And I'll be back in a few days' time for UFC 197, the return of the pound for pound great, the number 1 that is John Bones Jones. See you then.